Let's talk about what you need to be eating. The very first step in detoxing your body through diet is actually going to be adding in foods. How cool is that? Before removing anything from your plate, we are first going to pile it up so high that you don't even notice what we start to take from it. But seriously, unless you have the right foods going in, it is really hard to start taking foods away that you may feel like are actually holding you together. So I want to go over the basics of food and how to create each meal to constantly uplift and to feed you. We will cover the quantity to eat, how often to eat, what to look for in your food, your macronutrients, your micronutrients, fibre, eating for your blood type, and then how to structure your plate each meal. So food is our fuel, it's our nourishment. It's the way that we look after our body and show it love and caring. If you care enough to fuel your body right, then you will get the amazing results and changes that you're looking for. It's not about willpower. No one normal has the willpower to eat a salad, for example, for lunch if there is a delicious creamy pasta in the fridge. So don't put yourself in the position where you have to exercise your willpower yet. Once the habits have formed and your digestion has detoxified, you will be able to trust your body to direct you to the right food choices. But do listen to your body still, and I will teach you to understand its messages. Post or email me any symptoms you are experiencing and I will translate them for you as we go. For the first week of making new food choices, you are going to have cravings. You may have body aches or headaches. I want you to understand what these are so that you can beat them. The cravings can be a few things, but most commonly I find that there are two main reasons. Part of changing how you eat is to balance out your blood sugar level so that whether you have eaten 4 hours ago or just finished a meal, your body is still releasing the same amount of glucose into your bloodstream to feed your body. The way that you've probably been eating means that you have been giving your body sugar or carb highs, which are then followed by a crash. And this means that you have to then reach for another carb hit to bring yourself back up again. So you're constantly doing this, the carb roller coaster. The biggest low you're probably familiar with is that mid-afternoon crash, where you feel lethargic and tired and can't do any work. Initially, when we stop these carb highs, your body will start craving sugar because this is habitually how you got your energy back up again. But we are going to break that habit and let your body find a bit of a flat line so that your blood and your body and your cells have a constant source of fuel and you stop damaging the cells that are sensitive to this carb overloading. The other common cause of cravings is that when you start putting the good food in and taking out the destructive food, you start to starve off the hostile bugs in your gut. The bacteria, worms, the fungus that have been having a giant party in your digestive system. Well, bad news is they all live off carbs and sugar, and now suddenly they have no food source. But these bugs are clever. They want to survive. When they get hungry, they will start releasing sometimes up to 50 chemicals to make your body feel bad enough that you might start feeding them again. Many of these toxins they release are actually neurotoxins, so they make your brain feel foggy, they make your head feel sore, and often your concentration levels just plummet. Never fear, they only last for 3 days, or in severe cases we sometimes see 7 days. But this is a normal part of getting over any addiction. Then once your blood sugars and gut flora have normalised, your cravings will start to lead you towards the food that your body actually needs, which is so much more helpful. You will quite specifically know when you feel like a crunchy carrot, or maybe a piece of oily avocado. So listen to your body and trust what it tells you, but if you do need an interpreter, that's where I fit in. And make sure you include the whole family in these food changes. Don't try and do this alone because, as I mentioned earlier, then you'll have to practice this willpower thing over and over as you make the kids' lunches or as you eat dinner across from your partner or your flatmates. So commit your family or your household to helping you to care for your body and health. It's a great exercise in really putting yourself first. And if this feels uncomfortable to make these changes, then it's probably an important part of this challenge for you. So, down to business. How much food should you eat? Well, the most important part to know is that starting to eat healthy doesn't mean starting to starve yourself. Even though you are starving out those bugs in your tummy, you yourself should not feel constantly hungry. So don't let yourself get hungry. Eat as much of the right foods as you feel that you need. A good rule is 80%. My husband and I heard this saying years ago, and we constantly use it as a reference. Often it's just to moan that we've just gone beyond our 80% mark. But generally, if you're 80% full, then by the time your body has caught up with the speed that you've probably just eaten your meal at, your body will be 100% full. So don't overeat, because this places an extra pressure on your digestion, which is a huge stress to your body. So should you snack or eat big meals? This is a bit of a contentious topic, because many diets will say 3 main meals a day, don't eat in between, you need to give your gut a break. But I know that many of my clients, including myself, would actually suffer eating this way. I would far prefer regular small meals to keep my digestion and my energy happy. And so that's what I do. I have a very fast metabolism, and so I'm always hungry. I get hungrier if I eat big meals, and I feel lethargic if I eat big meals. So know your body type. There's no one size fits all. I'm also an A blood type, along with both of my daughters, and so all of us could just snack all day without ever committing properly to a full meal, which if you read Peter Didamo's work, it's actually a typical A blood type. Interesting. My husband, on the other hand, he is such a typical O type. He could happily live in a cave and just eat meat and vegetables. He couldn't snack all day like the rest of our family, or he'd just become lethargic and uncomfortable. So let's talk a little bit more about blood type now. So Eat Right for Your Type is a fascinating book written by Peter Diadamo. Google it if you're interested. They have a great website, they've got an app for your phone, and the book's really easy to read. We actually have the book in our Healing Room library if you want to borrow it. So he takes you on a journey with the 4 different blood types, which is your A, your O, your B and your AB, and basically about how these 4 blood types came to be. It looks a bit at ancestry and also the scientific evidence behind how your blood reacts to the different foods. If you know your blood type, then listen in. I'll give you some examples. The 2 main blood types are blood type A and O. A typical A blood type is better with white meat rather than red. Red will often make you carry more weight and also feel fatigued and contribute to heart and immune conditions, diabetes, cancers, all those lovely things. A's need calming, centering exercises to balance their personalities. O's, on the other hand, need intense physical exercise. They do really well on meat and eggs and don't generally do very well with dairy products or grains. You will gain weight and often suffer from allergies and joint problems if you're eating grains as an O blood type, especially gluten. So we can test you for your blood type if you don't know it at the Healing Room, so just let us know. So what else should you look for in your foods? Well, food needs to be fresh, seasonal and local. This is my number 1 rule. This is why I love the local markets, which here are in Tauranga Primary School, because the produce has generally been picked the night before, and you can tell. Many fruit and vegetables at the supermarket are picked and then stored in controlled atmosphere conditions for up to a year. This is often to transport them from afar or to keep the food available in the off-season. Every day that the food is out of the ground, it loses a percentage of its nutrients. So, eat local and seasonal to make sure your food is fresh. Now, before this, the produce is often being picked early so that it doesn't get too ripe in the transport process. The problem here is that when the fruit hasn't ripened naturally on the tree or in the ground if it's a vegetable, then it doesn't gain the extra nutrients that it would otherwise get. So often by the time the produce makes it to the supermarket and then onto your plate, you're actually just eating this fibrous skeleton of the product that it once was. What a waste of money, time and effort eating it. So food is so much better for us if it's fresh, seasonal and local, but also if it's organic or spray-free. Now this is a huge topic, so I'm actually going to cover this in more detail in week 3. I'm going to get a professional in to talk a bit more about this. But for now, just try to hit the markets or maybe ask your local fruit and veggie shop if they use local or seasonal produce. Now, animal products. For many reasons, meat and eggs are less inflammatory to your body if it is grass-fed or a free-ranged in pastures type meat. Many meat and eggs boast that they are corn-fed, when actually this is an extra omega-3 dose, which is very inflammatory for both the animals and therefore for us when it's passed on. So ask around to make sure that things are grass-fed and free-ranged. Now, fats are also much better if they are extra virgin and if they're kept refrigerated, depending on what the fat is. Otherwise, fats tend to go rancid or become a trans fat, which then loads up the load on your liver and contributes to a lot of our symptoms or diseases. Now, half of every plate should be your fresh vegetables. This is the most important change that I want you to make. Fresh, local and seasonal vegetables will be full of all the vitamins and minerals that your body needs to run every process in your body. Raw vegetables are also full of enzymes, and that's what helps you to digest food. Also, the fibre content of vegetables is so important because this helps to keep your bowel moving and regular, and often also feeds those good bugs in your digestive system that can help you absorb all your food. So without having your veggies on the plate, there's actually really no point in putting anything else on there. Now, breakfast is the hardest time to add veggies because we're kind of programmed in the Western world not to. If you can't add veggies every day to your breakfast, at least get fruit onto your plate so that you've got live, fibrous enzymes and vitamins and minerals. I'll post some breakfast examples for you to have a look at. Right, onto the big nutrients. So this is about your carbs, your proteins and your fats. Now we all know about carbs, proteins and fats. Most people are scared of carbs because people are starting to talk about how bad they are for us. And most people are still scared of fat because, well, that's what we grew up being taught, right? But to be honest, all of these macronutrients, that's the fats, proteins and carbs, are important to be eating for all of our body functions. You just need to know which class to put the right foods into. Because there are unhealthy carbs, there are unhealthy fats, and there are unhealthy proteins that are not going to make you feel good. So let's look at each of these groups. Now, many meat and eggs boast that they are corn-fed, when actually all this extra omega-6 is very inflammatory for animals and therefore passed on to us. So ask around for grass-fed and free-range products. Now, fats. These are only good if they're extra virgin and kept in a dark glass bottle or refrigerated, depending on what fat we're talking about. Otherwise, fats tend to go rancid or become a trans fat, which then loads up your liver and contributes to a lot of our symptoms and disease. Right, so let's start with the carbohydrate group. So this is one area that we get quite worried about because we're worried about touching carbs. But then when I say to people, take out sugars, take out your simple carbs, they start to freak out that there's actually going to be nothing left in their pantry or their fridge. So I wanted to just get a few things out to show you there is plenty of carbohydrate options beyond sugar. So let's just start simply. We've got your vegetables. So in your vegetable group, you've got your cruciferous vegetables, you've got your leafy greens, you've got your carrots and your beans, you've got, we know what vegetables are. You can get a lot of those. If you go to your markets, you'll find things there that you didn't even know was a vegetable. So if you want to expand your vegetable variety, go to the markets. So you've got your vegetables, you've also got your starchy vegetables. So things like your potatoes, your kumara, your pumpkin, your yams, those sorts of foods. Those are wonderful carbohydrate options as well. Fruit, we all know about fruit, easy to get. Easy to eat, again, at your local markets. Get them fresh, get them local. Now, the area that often we get stuck on are the whole grains and the legumes. So I want to talk a bit more about those. If you're an O blood type, you might not love these because your body might not do well with digesting them. But for the rest of the world, whole grains and legumes are a great way to get your carbohydrate intake. So I've got a few different ones here so you can sort of see what they look like. Brown rice. I didn't put that out, I think you know what brown rice looks like. Don't go white rice, go brown rice because it's a whole grain. It takes your body longer to digest it. It's not a processed food form like your white rice is. Then we've got here your millet. So millet looks like that. Another one of your grains, a whole grain. We've got your amaranth, which is sort of the same but a little bit finer. It's good for a breakfast cereal. We've got your buckwheat, which is technically not a grain. It's actually a seed. But for simplicity, we've just put it in this group. Then you've got your whole oats. So that's different to rolled oats. Rolled oats are a bit more of a processed form. So see if you can go whole oats. And then I've got your quinoa as well. So, I mean, you look at how many different grains you've got there to be able to put into different meals. It gives you quite a good variety. Now, make sure you prepare your whole grains and your legumes and actually your nuts and your seeds well to eat them. Because what we often don't know is that to protect themselves, these different plant foods have got what we call lectins around them, and these are protective for the plant. It stops the microorganisms, the pests and the insects from getting to the plant and destroying them before they can mature. And they also are there so that animals won't digest them when they eat them, and then they'll go and deposit them on fields afar and allow the plant to grow elsewhere. So for that same reason, us as animals eating them, we don't break down these lectin layers. So this sort of food can go straight through us without us absorbing much of the nutrients at all. So basically, if you want to eat these sorts of foods, you do need to soak them, whether it be overnight to have them for breakfast, or whether it be putting them on that morning to soak for the day. Add a capful of apple cider vinegar in too, because that just helps to speed up that digestion. And then once you've done that and you're ready to cook them, make sure you just rinse that off, give them a good rinse out with some fresh water, and then add the water in that you want to cook them in. So in our legume aisle here, I've picked a few out just to show you what kind of variety that you could possibly have. So here I've got black-eyed beans, I've got cannellini beans, azuki beans, black beans, and chickpeas. So those sort of all in that same bean group. Then you've got here red lentils and brown lentils. So quite a different variety that you can use for your meals. So that's your carbohydrates. Let's have a look at your proteins. Right, so now the protein foods. And again, we kind of get stuck in the area of mince, sausages, steaks when it comes to protein, but there are a lot of other foods that we can use to get our protein intake. So here we've got a few. And again, I've put out everything that I managed to have in my kitchen just to show you that there's a good array of variety. So let's start with your meats, because that's what we think of. So you've got your red meat and you've got your white meat. So here I've got your fish, your chicken, your red meat. I think that's some venison there. But you've got your pork, you've got your beef, you've got your duck, you've got whatever else you love. Meat's an easy one. Eggs, another good one. Just remember, free range or organic, or both is the best, because you don't want them to be so much grain and corn fed, because that's far more inflammatory. You want them to be grass fed, so they've got all those good omega-3s for you to get the anti-inflammatory component. Again, your whole grains and your legumes are a great source of both carbohydrates and protein. So if you're eating those, then you're getting a good variety of both carbs and protein. Over here we've got your nuts and your seeds. So again, there's a lot of nuts and seeds you can choose from. Again, get a variety, because that means that you're going to end up getting the different nutrients that each one offers, the different types of fats and the different combinations. So here I've just got your cashews, almonds, I've got some flax seeds, some chia seeds, but of course you've got lots more than that. You've got your walnuts, your Brazil nuts, you've got your sunflower seeds, your pumpkin seeds, the world's your oyster there. Good way of using these, make sure again you soak them first. That's something we don't often do, but again it gets rid of those lectins that we talked about. And your nuts and seeds are best to soak in a bit of salt. Put a teaspoon of salt in, soak them for 12 hours to 24 hours. I'll give you a bit of a reference guide, I'll add that on to the post. And then again, rinse them out and just dehydrate them, or put them under the oven and give them a bit of a light roast. But your seeds you can put into a combination, lightly roast them, even put a bit of salt or tamari, soy sauce over them, and use them to sprinkle over your salads to give you that bit of extra protein. Things like your chia seeds, chia seed pudding is a great one to have. My kids love to have it for breakfast, so have a little bit of a Google of that. And then your nuts, just a great snack to have a handful of nuts to give you that protein boost. Then you've got your soy-based proteins. So here I've got tempeh, if you haven't seen that one before. That's a fermented soy, which is the only way that I like to eat it, because soy is a bean that has very tough lectins around it. So soaking it doesn't usually get rid of the lectins to let you get any of the nutrients from soy. You need to ferment it to get those nutrients. So there's also tofu, which is not a fermented form, and then your soy milks and things like that, which I wouldn't highly recommend. But tempeh is great. And then you've got your dairy products, of course, for a great source of protein. You've got your cheeses, you've got your butter, you've got your milks, creams, yogurts, all those sorts of things. So plenty of variety to get your protein in. So have a look at what I've got here and start writing your grocery list. Okay, so our last macronutrient is fat, and fat is just so important. Fat has had a bad rap for being the thing that makes you put on weight. Fat does not make you put on weight. Having not enough fat will make you hold on to any fat that you do put in. But otherwise, fat will generally create hormones, it helps to build your cell walls, it helps to build the brain and help development and growth. So fat is nothing but good as long as it's the right type. So here I've got a few extra things, a lot of it's similar to what the protein group looked like, with the eggs, with your red and white meats, with your nuts and your seeds, and with your dairy products. The thing I've added into the meats is organic livers, organic chicken livers. Those of you who love offal will love that I've added that. Those of you who hate it will hate it. There'll be no one in between. So if you love offal, make sure you get that into your body. It's such a great source of all your different fats. Now the other things I've added in here are your oils. So here I've got coconut, olive and avocado oil. All of them are extra virgin because, as I said, if they're not extra virgin, the process that I've gone through to get to this point has let them become rancid. And you'll know because if you burp up oils and you can taste them afterwards, that means that they're rancid. And also you'll be able to taste that real stingy kind of taste in the back of your throat. It shouldn't have that, it should be quite smooth. So make sure they're in dark glass bottles, and that's really it for our fats. So basically that is what you need to put onto your plate. So you can't tell me that you're going to have any more space on your plate to put any of the other stuff that you know you shouldn't be having. So let's just focus on piling up your plate. Tomorrow we're going to talk about things that you shouldn't have on your plate. We can take a few things away. And the day after that we're going to talk a bit more about preparing food so that you feel like you can actually do this without being overwhelmed. So I'm sorry that there was so much information in today's video. For those of you who are just starting out with changing your eating habits, I hope I haven't overwhelmed you or put you off or freaked you out. If I have, please just ask me for more support. Put some comments in the boxes below and I will help work alongside you and get you to where you need to be. It shouldn't be hard, it won't be hard, but it is a habit change. To help you though, I am going to summarise what we've done in the video so far. So let me just flick through everything we've talked about and the things that I do need you to remember from this video. So first of all, don't let yourself get hungry. This is not a diet where you're going to be starving yourself to get skinny. You might get skinny out of this, but it's not going to be through starving yourself. That is not a healthy way to get skinny. On the same token, only eat till you're 80% full. Overeating is just as stressful as starving yourself, so 80% mark is a great rule. If you're interested, investigate your blood type from Peter Diodamo. We'll add his details in. And if you don't know your blood type, come on into the healing room and we're happy to test it for you. Next thing to remember is always fill half of every plate with your vegetables. So breakfast, lunch and dinner. And if you have to add a few little bits of fruit in there to mix it up, absolutely do, but try not to go over about 2 pieces of fruit a day. Every meal, make sure that you've got a good balance of carbs, protein and fats. And when you're buying your food, try and think about 8 different things. So these are the 8 things that we talked about that I'd love you to start just becoming aware of as you're going around the grocery store. So is the food whole? Is it fresh, local, seasonal? And then also start looking if things are organic. Now we'll talk about that a lot more later on, but just start thinking about it. Look at meat and see if it's grass-fed rather than grain or corn-fed, because we're trying to find that anti-inflammatory meat. And then also look at things and see if they are free-ranging. So can the chooks get out there and eat the bugs and the vegetation rather than just get grains over and over, again for that anti-inflammatory effect. And then also look to see if your food is extra virgin, so that's especially your oils and fats. Now, if you are getting cravings or you're struggling, please just ask me to translate for you. No comment's a dumb comment, please just ask anything that you need because other people are going to learn from your questions. Now the last thing to do is whip out a piece of paper and pen, and if you need to, watch this video again and just note down some new foods that you're going to put on your grocery list to get you a bit more variety onto your plate to make this a wee bit easier. Thanks so much for joining me. See you tomorrow.